With Indiana basketball's upcoming non-conference schedule really not being that difficult, could we see this team possibly go undefeated?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. A reminder that we are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs wind down, the sport stops sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, thank you again so much for making Locked On Hoosiers your true first listen each and every day. And reminder, we are free and available wherever you get your podcast, whether you're on the audio version on any of your platforms there, or whether you're watching on the YouTube video. We're always free, and you'll never have to pay for an episode. So you may as well subscribe, become a part of the family, and become an everydayer. We've talked about this non-conference schedule just a little bit with Indiana basketball. And look, I told you my thoughts. It ain't that difficult. It's really not that hard. So I asked the question, could Indiana basketball in the non-conference schedule go undefeated? We'll look at this schedule again, talk about what it would mean to go undefeated, and then kind of rank the games. We'll kind of pot them up a little bit and rank the games in the non-conference schedule from difficulty to importance, things like that. And those will be pretty similar. So that's what's coming up on the show today. With this non-conference schedule, my everydayers know I was disappointed. I was upset. I'm not happy with the non-conference schedule that we got for Indiana basketball. Outside the battle for Atlantis, man, you've got one good game. You have one good game with South Carolina. And the issue is also you don't go anywhere. You don't travel. You do the battle for Atlantis at the end of November, but that's it. You don't go to any cool sites. You don't have any of those other neutral site games. You play everything inside of Assembly Hall. And I think that there is a reason for that. If you look across the landscape of college basketball, you see once you get down to March and you get to the tournament committee and the selection committee and the people that make the decisions, right? The ones that sit in a room by themselves and make all these decisions and then go home and have no accountability. Yeah, those people, you look at it, and if you are a power four now, and you know, I'm still going to say power five. I always said power six. I count the Big East as one in college basketball, so I'm going to continue to say power five. If you're a power five program like us here at Indiana, you get almost little to no reward for winning at home. If you bring in a Villanova or a Kansas or even some mid-major team, you get almost no credit for winning at home because of all the different disparities and the numbers and how they use their formulas. You just don't get a whole lot of credit for winning at home. Everything has to be neutral site or on the road. A lot of it comes down to those net rankings, right? We talk about that a lot once basketball season comes around. And so if you're Indiana, if you're Mike Woodson, if you are this entire program in the athletics department at Indiana, why would you schedule a tough game at home? Because guess what? You'll get hammered if you lose at home, but you'll get little to no reward if you win. And so while it's disappointing for fans like us and people that go and cover and watch these games and cheer for our Hoosiers, you just kind of get hosed because you don't get to see the best games inside of Assembly Hall. And it really is a shame, but I get it. I totally understand why you would do it this way. Take the South Carolina game, for instance. That's a cool game. That's a really awesome opportunity for Indiana to invite an up-and-coming SEC squad from the South. Come here. They get the chance to see an historic basketball venue, and it should be a really good game. But if the Hoosiers win, nobody's going to think twice. Nobody's going to look and say, wow, what a great win that was for the Hoosiers. Way to go, Woody. You did great. And the people on the outside aren't going to respect the win. We'll give them credit because I think that would be a good win. But I'm talking other folks around the Big Ten. Nobody's really going to blink an eye. But the moment you lose that basketball game and you let South Carolina come to your house and beat you, yeah, then you've got problems and you've got the attention of everybody across the country. Whoa, are you serious? South Carolina went to Bloomington. They beat the Hoosiers in Assembly Hall. Are you serious? What a win that is for them. That's embarrassing for Indiana, which means and has nothing to do with the program and the current status of South Carolina. That's a solid basketball program. But you see what I'm saying here. You get little to no credit for winning at home, and you get blasted for losing at home. You've got to win on neutral site, which the Hoosiers will have a chance to do with the battle for Atlantis, and you get a ton of credit for winning on the road. But it's not very common for teams to go just purely on the road in non-con play like a Power 5 team like the Hoosiers. You'll see some of some of those early games. You have the SEC, what is it? The ACC challenge now, right? It used to be the Big 12. I believe it's the ACC challenge now. That's in like late December and January. And so you just don't see it a whole lot because, again, you're risking taking a plummet in the eyes of the committee. And I hate that it's gotten this way. I hate that it has become political, but that's the way it is. That's the only way to describe it, is political. And so you look up and down this schedule. Again, you've got Marion is the exhibition game on November 1st. I'll run through this really quickly here. SIU Edwardsville to open up the season. Eastern Illinois, South Carolina, UNC Greensboro, Battle for Atlantis, then Sam Houston State, Miami of Ohio, UT Chattanooga, and you'll wrap up non-con play with Winthrop on December 28th. I mean, okay, like tell me why we can't go undefeated here. Tell me why we can't win every single game in non-con play. And yes, I'm including the battle for Atlantis because I told you this week, my everydayers know this, that I think we can win the battle for Atlantis. While there's some big name teams, you break it down a little bit and it's not all that scary. I had an episode about that earlier in the week. You could go check that out here on Locked On Hoosiers. I just don't see a world where we can't go undefeated. Sure, you could slip up in Atlantis. You could let South Carolina come in here and beat you. But outside of that, you have no excuse to let any team step inside of Assembly Hall like a Sam Houston State, who was a 21-win team a year ago, but they still have no business beating you on your home floor. That's my statement. That's why I'm saying the Hoosiers absolutely can go undefeated in non-conference play. Now, the question becomes, what would that mean? Do you really want to go undefeated in non-conference play? And how could that propel you going into the new year, going into January, into the Big Ten conference play? We'll talk about that coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Look, I love sports, and I know that you do too. I love them so much, though, that I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down and as we get through the middle of July, there's just not a ton of sports actually going on. Thank goodness you've got the Olympics coming up, and you still have Major League Baseball. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want to. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again, making this your first listen each and every day. A reminder, we are free and available as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, so you never have to pay, which means you should never miss an episode. And the way to do that, if you're on audio, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever platform you decide to listen to, I appreciate you. So be sure you follow there, turn on notifications, subscribe if it's an option, whatever you got to do so you never miss a new episode. Also, for those of you on YouTube, my everydayers, you guys are showing up. I really do appreciate that. Be sure you comment down below, like the video, and subscribe to our channel if you have not done so already. Haven't given you guys a live update in quite some time. And you look at it now, we are approaching 2,700 subscribers. I think we can get there. I really do. I think we can get there in this week, I think. And so be sure that you become a part of those subscribers here on the YouTube channel. Well, I told you that I think Indiana basketball can go undefeated in the non-conference schedule because outside of that, the battle for Atlantis, that should be the expectation. I don't think that's a wild thing to say. And some of you may agree and some of you may disagree. And you may come at me and you may say, Jacob, you're absolutely right, man. You've never been wrong. I love those people. It's not true, but I love you anyway. The thing about it, though, is do you want to go undefeated in non-conference play? That's the next question that I pose to you. Because, and I alluded to this earlier in the week and maybe a little bit last week as well. If you do go undefeated, let's play my favorite game. Let's play the what if game here for just a second. What if you're a basketball team, and we'll, of course, be talking about Indiana, but you can talk about any team in the Power 5 realm, and you go undefeated in non-conference play because of a weaker schedule. We've seen this across college basketball. You see it in these major conferences all the time, every year. There's always one. Possibly two, but there's always that one school that has a super weak non-conference schedule. And then once they get to Big Ten play or the SEC or the Big 12, they go 500 because everybody was jumping on them, thought they were the hottest thing, right? The best thing that's ever been born. And then they play some real talent. They play teams that are ranked top 75 in the net, and they drop like a rock. And then we find out really that they weren't all that good to begin with. So will that be the case for Indiana? I don't know. I think it could be possible, sure. And I think that there could be a little bit of false hope here because, again, outside of the battle for Atlantis, man, tell me a game that we're going to lose. Tell me a game that we should even have a chance at losing. You start talking about like the ESPN predictions, right? They do the percentages on their websites. I mean, looking at these games, South Carolina will be the only one that should be anywhere close. And since it's in Bloomington, give the Hoosiers a 65% chance to win, which guess what? You're still favored to win. FanDuel will have us favored. I guarantee you that. They're going to have us favored on their site. So I'll definitely be jumping all over that because we should win the game. And then all the other ones, it'll be 75% and above. So you absolutely could go undefeated. But I go back to my question. What does that mean? Do you want to be undefeated in non-con play? Well, you're not going to complain, that's for sure. Nobody's ever gotten into it and said, I want us to lose a game just so we feel better about ourselves. Or, yeah, don't really want to be that undefeated team going into conference play. You know what happens, man? I hate winning a lot of games. No, nobody's ever said that. But what I'm trying to get to is, okay, if you're not really battle tested, which I think they will be in Atlantis for the most part, but if you go into it and into the conference schedule feeling unbeatable, feeling indefensible, right? Feeling just where you cannot be beaten, there's a good side to that and a bad side to that. This isn't the Michael Jordan mindset of, yeah, I'm just flat out better than you. You're not going to beat me. This is a false hope. That's what that is. Going undefeated in non-con play with a weak schedule like we have, that is false hope. And you go into it, and we don't know what the Big Ten schedule stacks up to be yet. We don't know what that looks like just yet, but we understand that it's going to be difficult, and there's a good chance one of your first 3 or 4 games will be really tough on the road. And so I fear that we win, right, a bunch of non-conference games, and then we go early on in Big Ten play and just get smacked and then are not able to recover. We just kind of snowball into a mediocre season once again. I think this team's too talented for that. I don't think they're going to allow that to happen, but I can see it. I've seen it way too many times with big name programs and solid basketball teams. So I'm not saying that I want this team to lose a game this year. Not saying that by any means. But I do believe that if you go into the battle for Atlantis, which again is the highest percentage chance to lose a game, and you go in and go 2-1 in a 3-game set, you go 2-1 with a loss to Gonzaga or Arizona or even Providence, West Virginia, whichever team it is, okay, that's not the end of the world. But I still believe we don't do that. I still believe we can go in 3-0 in the battle for Atlantis and then wipe the floor with all the other teams that we play, which includes South Carolina, who you play before the battle for Atlantis. South Carolina's on November 16th, the battle for Atlantis, November 27th, 28th, and 29th. And if we are undefeated going into Big Ten play, look, I'll tell you like it is on Locked On Hoosiers. Whether we're undefeated or not, I'll tell you if we're a good team or not, whether I think we are or not. And I don't care if this team hasn't lost a game and they haven't played anybody or nobody's played them within 20 points. I'll be able to tell. And a lot of you will be able to tell too, whether this team is falsely good, right? A false hope, a false good, or okay, this team's legit. They've got a chance to make a run in the Big Ten regular season. We'll be able to tell. It's not overly difficult in college basketball to find out the teams that are beating up on crappy teams and teams that are still really good. They've just had a couple of bumps and bruises along the way. That's what I'm looking for this upcoming season. The chances of going undefeated, I don't know what the numbers are. We don't have really odds or predictions or percentages on these games just yet. But if I had to put a number on it, just to take a stab on it, if you take the battle for Atlantis out, it would be like an 80% chance that this team goes undefeated. I think it's that heavy and possibly could be more. Given the teams that you could potentially and will be playing in Atlanta some way, shape, or form, because even if you lose and you go 0 for 3, you're still going to play Davidson and Louisville and, West Virginia or Providence or Oklahoma. Like, you're still going to play a big name team, which means you still have a chance to lose. And heck, if you just go down there and play like crap, you can lose all 3 games and you'll be embarrassed when you get on the plane to head out of there. But throwing that into the mix, the chances, the percentage of this team going undefeated in non-conference play, I'm going to put it on, I'm going to say 45%, little less than 50-50, because you're talking about 3, really 4 tough games that you got to win. I'll put it on 45% that this team goes undefeated in non-conference play. You beat South Carolina, depending on how you look, I'll feel pretty good. You go to Atlantis and win your first one, all right, that's the hardest one to win in any type of tournament. Then you're going to go up against the big boys, and that's what you got to be able to overcome. So I'll put it on a 45% chance. Maybe a little high. You may not agree, and that's okay. That's okay. But I believe in this roster. I believe in this team. And I'm going to believe in Mike Woodson as a head coach until he proves me otherwise. Now, there's a lot of things that have to change from a year ago. We know that, and we'll get into that in a later date on a later episode. But I believe for now. And until I'm proven wrong, okay. That's where I kind of stand on that. And I think there's a really good chance that this team could go undefeated in the non-conference. But if they don't, it's okay. Don't go crazy. Don't lose your minds. It's okay. Now, if this team starts losing 5, 6, 7 games, hold the phone. Then we got a major problem. But I am excited for the season to get started, even if the non-con slate is a little bit on the weaker side. Well, coming up in our final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers, I'll rank the games in our non-con schedule. I'm going to pot them up a little bit. Won't go one by one, but I'm going to tell you what's important, what's going to be tough, and where the Hoosiers just got to focus up a little bit, especially based off of a year ago. We'll have that coming up for you in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Final segment here on the show, man. It's been a lot of fun. Appreciate you being here and making this your first listen each and every day. Again, shout out to the Locked On Podcast Network for allowing us to be here doing this Indiana podcast each and every day. And also shout out for you because they allow it to be free each and every day for you. So that's a huge, huge deal. And nobody's doing it like we are at Locked On. So keep that in mind and shout out to the Locked On Podcast Network. Looking at this non-conference schedule, let's rank this thing, all right? Let's rank this thing based off of a year ago, based off of difficulty, based off of importance. All of that is fed in to this big old ranking, okay? And I'm going to leave out the Marion exhibition. While I am excited for that, right, you've got former head coach, Coach Knight's son is now the head coach there. So what a really neat opportunity that's going to be in that Marion exhibition game. You've got a lot of different teams coming in that we just don't know a whole lot about. I mean, you've got a team in Sam Houston State that won Conference USA. You've got first-year head coaches. You've got guys that have been coaching there 4 and 5 years. I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get, and it's a flurry of different teams. I mean, look at some of these. You have a team in Eastern Illinois that won 14 games a year ago, but you look around and you've got the UNC Greensboro that went 21-11. Like, guys are going to be good on these teams, and the Hoosiers got to be ready. Let me give you this count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Outside the battle for Atlantis, you have 4 teams that won 20 games a year ago. There's a lot of coaches that 20 games is the standard each and every year, okay? That means you are going to be playing talented teams. Now, I don't have to tell you about teams change year to year and you gain and lose players, all that mess, right? So here's how I got them ranked out, all right? Based off of, again, importance, difficulty, all those certain things. At the bottom, I'm going to put Eastern Illinois, and I'm going to put Winthrop and Miami of Ohio. Those are games that are split up. Eastern Illinois is the second game of the year. Miami of Ohio is down near the bottom in December 6th of the non-con. And then Winthrop is your final non-conference game. Those have to be wins. You will win them. Indiana will crush those 3 teams. We hope, okay? Outside of that, then you start getting into some of these games that are going to be a little interesting. All right, I'm going to put UT Chattanooga, I'm going to put Sam Houston State, and I'm going to put UNC Greensboro, 3 teams that won 20 or more games a year ago because they all returned some players. They've all got really talented and young head coaches, and they all are teams that are going to come in here and look at film from a year ago and look at those teams that almost came to Assembly Hall and took down Indiana. And those are teams who are young, are talented, and hungry for a win, and they believe that they can do it. That's why those teams scare me a little bit. We will be more talented than them. We will outcoach them. We will just be a better team. But you all know in sports, the best team doesn't always win. The better team does not always win. And that's why Indiana has to show up and compete in those games. But there's still opportunities to get better, to improve, to work on things, to do different rotations. Like, that's what these games are for. So am I worried about those games against UT Chattanooga, Sam Houston State, UNC Greensboro? No, I'm not. I'm not worried about it at all. The next group, I'm going to put South Carolina and SIU Edwardsville in the same category. And you're probably thinking, wait, the 21-win South Carolina and the almost 500 SIU Edwardsville, why are they looped together? Well, South Carolina for obvious reasons, because it's one of your biggest non-conference games against the SEC, and we always want to be able to beat the SEC when we can. And it's a big-name team that this will be a nationally televised game somewhere, right? This will be a game that people will tune into. They're scrolling through the TV guide or they're looking through their phone. It's like, oh man, I got to make sure I'm watching that. I got to check in on that. Let's see what's going on in Indiana, South Carolina. Just a unique matchup, right? That's why I put it up there, because it's important to win. And it's one of those where, again, you're bringing them in on your home floor. You won't get rewarded for winning, but you will get dragged for losing it. I also put SIU Edwardsville in there because it's the first game of the year. It's important. You have to get off to a good start, give the fans what they want, and shake off all the bugs, shake off all the jitters, get all that and the nerves, get them out. Get them out of the way before Eastern Illinois comes in. Again, that's a 14-win team. Nothing crazy. I put them at the bottom as well. You'll have 2 games before that South Carolina game. And so SIU Edwardsville, I always have nerves going into the first game. And I'm just media. I'm just a guy that talks about it. I'm not even a player or a coach, but I'm always nervous just because we don't know what we're going to see. We don't know how it's going to look. And guess what? It probably ain't going to be the prettiest basketball you've ever seen, especially in that first 20 minutes in that first half. And so I ask you to limit your expectations there, but it is important because you got to get off to a hot start. And then the obvious, all right, the obvious at the top, the most important, the most crucial, the most difficult games that you are going to play between November and January are the teams that you play in the battle for Atlantis. All right, Arizona, Davidson, Gonzaga, Louisville, West Virginia, Providence, Oklahoma. Those are the teams that you will be playing. Now, it'll be a different combination. It's a tournament style. Even if you lose, you're guaranteed 3 games. So you are guaranteed to play 3 out of those, other 7 teams that are there. So you are going to play a big name somewhere, whether it be Arizona or Gonzaga or, again, Providence. Don't sleep on Providence, okay? That's a really good program. I had some of you telling me don't sleep on West Virginia either. So I'm with you on that, my man. I'm with you that you can't sleep on any of these teams because it's early and we don't know what we're getting into. And what's crazy is You're only going to be 4 games into the season. So all of these teams are going to be so raw, but they're so important. You go in and get that win against Arizona, boom, resume building win. Gonzaga, boom, resume building win. You lose to Davidson, yeah, you're going to get knocked for that. You go in a dogfight against a mediocre Louisville team, we're going to learn a lot about this Indiana program. That's why it's at the top, man. It's a no-brainer. You knew it was coming, but it is important. And I think Mike Woodson and this staff will treat it that way. I think the team will treat it that way. But if you win those games, you have a chance to go undefeated in this non-conference schedule. You'll be a top 20 team in the country when Big Ten play starts, starting in January. All the hype will be around the Indiana Hoosiers if you go undefeated in the non-conference schedule. And you know what? I think it's very, very possible. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. I appreciate you being here and, again, making this your first listen each and every day. Hey, if you're looking for your next watch, your next listen, go check out Locked On College Basketball, okay? My boys Isaac and Andy do a wonderful job over there. I've had both of them on this program numerous times. We'll get them back on when basketball season rolls around. So if you're on YouTube, just type in Locked On College Basketball. Same thing on your audio platforms, all right? Go check those guys out. They do a wonderful job. Be sure you like this video, all right? Comment down below, subscribe to our channel before you go anywhere, and do the same thing on your audio platforms as well. We will be back tomorrow, okay? So until then, stay safe, Hoosier fans. I'll talk to you later.